Mom was harassed on flight. Then officer beside her quietly stood up. James hadn't said a word. The entire flight. Not when the man in 14C brushed past his mom's shoulder like she wasn't even there. Not when the stewardess looked straight at her and chose to pretend she didn't hear what he said under his breath. And not when his mom, Lisa, tightened the strap of her purse as if shielding herself, could change what was happening right in front of strangers who had all decided this wasn't their business. But I need you to listen now because I saw what happened next. And I don't think I was supposed to. This isn't a story about a hero or a villain. It's not even about the man who leaned in too close, who smiled with his teeth but not his eyes. It's about what happened when James finally stood up quietly, slowly, as if pulled by something invisible and said one sentence. Just 7 words and the air changed. The entire cabin shifted like a string had snapped behind the walls, like the plane itself exhaled. Something ancient. Something not quite right. That man won for see he vanished. Not walked away, not moved seats. One blink, he was there. Next, the seat was empty and cold. No one screamed. No one even noticed, except Lisa, whose hands started trembling. Not in fear, but like something had been returned to her. Her wedding ring, which had been lost for 11 years, was suddenly back on her finger. Tarnished, warm, and James's uniform still pressed. His badge, barely visible from beneath his jacket, looked her dead in the eyes and said, "It won't follow you now." "And I swear to God, the baby 3 rows back," said her name, said Lisa, clear as day, then smiled. The mom holding him went pale, swore he'd never spoken a word before that moment. "I know this sounds impossible. I know you're already thinking of reasons to shut this off. The reason you're still here, the reason you haven't clicked away yet, is because some part of you remembers this. Not the flight, not the man, but the feeling. That moment when something should have hurt you, but didn't. That split second where reality slipped, and no one else noticed. You ever ask yourself why no one talks about flights that land early? Or why there's sometimes no record of a passenger who sat next to you the whole trip? You ever wonder if someone's protecting you and you weren't supposed to know? James didn't speak again, not on the jet bridge, not in the terminal. Not when Lisa's knees buckled and she gripped the handrail like she was going to be. Pulled backward into something neither of them could name. The airport smelled wrong. Not old, not new, just wrong. Like someone had scrubbed it to clean to hide something like the scent of a room after the body's already been taken out. Still air. Echoed announcements in voices that didn't match. The mouths. The wall clocks all frozen at different times. And yet, no one seemed to notice. She saw her mother first, standing there. Hair curled like the old black and white photos in her attic, same pale yellow dress she wore in the portrait. Lisa had found once, the one she wasn't supposed to find, tucked between divorce papers and a bent-up receipt for a crib. But Lisa's mother had died in 2004. Complications from Alzheimer's. She hadn't remembered Lisa's name for the last 2 years of her life. But this woman, this girl, she looked like she'd just left home, pregnant, hands on her belly, tears in her eyes. And when she saw Lisa, she didn't look surprised. She looked relieved. And then she said it, "I knew you'd come back." That's when Lisa turned to James, but he was gone. Vanished. Like the man in 14C, not a sound. Not a single footprint in the thick grime clinging to the old tile beneath her feet. She blinked once, hard, and her mother was gone too. Dues! Time. The hallway was darker. The windows outside were black. No runways, no planes. Just endless glassy black, like the airport floated in space. The intercom above crackled alive again low. Garbled voices like they were trying to crawl through. Static. Flight 1971. Now departing. Do not trust him. Turn your tray tables. The words were broken, the tone not quite mechanical, but not human either. Lisa moved toward the sound like she was remembering something she hadn't lived. Her breath fogged in the air, even though it wasn't cold. And then she noticed the child. A little boy, standing by gate 7, holding a small cassette recorder in his hands, not blinking, not moving. Just pressing play, and from the old machine, a voice she knew too well, her own, terrified, screaming a name she didn't recognize, Alec. Then whispering, almost pleading, "I remember the cabin. I remember the knock." I didn't. Want to look? I never wanted to see his eyes. The boy pressed stop, looked at her, then turned and walked away. Lisa followed. And the hallway literally tilted beneath her feet, like the floor was remembering it used to be a fuselage. Lights flickered, revealing flashes of airline seats where the gates should be. All empty, except one. James slumped, face down, wearing his officer's jacket backwards. And in his era, military-grade comes earpiece. Still crackling, Lisa reached out, hesitated, then pulled the earpiece free. What she heard wasn't a flight signal. It was a therapy session, her voice again, crying, talking to someone named Dr. Albrecht, a woman, kind, steady. "You keep saying he was there with you," the therapist said. "But Lisa, you flew alone. Your son wasn't on the flight manifest. There's no James listed anywhere." Lisa's stomach flipped, nausea rising like heat behind her teeth. She looked down at the body again. It wasn't James anymore. It was her ex-husband. He'd been dead for 6 years. Cardiac arrest. She'd found him cold on the couch, his badge still clipped to his belt. But now he was here, wearing James's clothes, eyes open, staring up, and he mouthed, "Check the black box." A scream caught in her throat, too thick to leave. The hallway was crumbling now, screws falling from ceiling panels, fluorescents humming. Like dying bees, the sign flickered. "Flight 1971, final boarding number returns." She ran. She didn't know where she was going, just that something behind her had begun walking, not running, not crawling, just walking. Slow, precise steps that echoed like they'd been recorded, looping, like a vinyl skip. She passed a row of old TVs stacked against a wall, and each screen blinked on with a different image, her face in every one. Sleeping, showering, yelling at someone off screen, crying, talking to her son, but in none of them was James older. Then she stopped. A screen blinked. She was yelling at someone against someone off camera. A voice responded, not her ex-husband, not James. A woman's voice, flat, chilling. He never existed. "Lisa, he was what got you through the flight. You built him."
Yes.
"Because you knew what happened in 14C. You knew what you let happen then. A flash of an airline seat, covered in blood, and a whisper. The name from the tape, and his mother, the one holding him, was Lisa. But younger. 27, still pregnant.
Oh.
Her eyes swollen with tears. The same way her mother had looked. Agent Sloan shut off the recording and calmly stated, "Sometimes, trauma creates anchors. Looping delusions. This entire structure, this terminal, the plane, the timelines, it's all scaffolded on your refusal to process what happened in seat 1 for C." Lisa couldn't breathe. "He didn't just vanish, Lisa. You killed him. You broke. And then you built James to protect you from what you saw." But then something cracked in Sloane's face. Just for a second. A flicker. Like her expression wasn't hers. Her smile twitched too wide. Her eyes stopped blinking, and her voice looped. Double quotes, ... Do you remember what color the stewardess's eyes were? Do you remember what color the stewardess's eyes were? ... Lisa backed away and saw the exit door, behind its real light. Street sounds. Lax. Present day, but before she could reach it, the PA blared one last announcement. "Passenger Lisa Monroe. You are not cleared to leave. A report is pending." The voice wasn't robotic anymore, it was James. "Not as a boy, as a man, Mom. Don't open the door yet. If you leave now, they'll erase me for good. You won't even remember building." "Me," she turned, heart splitting. He was standing there, older, real, tears in his eyes. "You don't have to believe me. Just don't walk through yet. Not until you remember why you made me." And she did remember at least pieces. The whispers, the bruises, the nurse who didn't believe her, the lawsuit they buried, the folder that disappeared, and the flight. The one they said never happened. It's the one where he said too much now. She stands frozen, One door leads to a world that will gaslight her into forgetting everything. The other may keep her trapped in a lie she chose to believe. Either way, someone's about to knock from behind. And this time, she has to look. Lisa chose the door. Not because she trusted it, but because she couldn't keep trusting herself. She stepped into the daylight. And for a moment, everything was normal, lax, the modern wing, people dragging roller bags, kids with tablets, the scent of coffee, pretzels, sweat. Sunlight poured through the windows like it had always been there. Her phone buzzed to life, notifications flooding the screen. Missed calls. A text from her sister asking if she landed safely. An Uber already 5 minutes away. The time read to 31 p.m. August 6th, 2025. That part made her pause. Because the flight was only 2 hours long. But the date had shifted. She boarded on August 2nd, no jet lag, no memory of connection flights. Just for days, gone. But still, Lisa told herself, I'm here. I made it out. It's over. It felt like the conclusion to a very specific kind of trauma. One that left no marks, only questions you couldn't ask out loud. She told herself she imagined. The voice on the recorder, the boy at the gate, the echo of her own screams buried in devices she no longer carried. She even convinced herself James had been a stress hallucination, one more symptom, like the sleepwalking, like the red door that kept showing up in her dreams. Grief reshapes memory. Trauma fills in blanks. She had always known this. And this stretch of silence, this clean terminal, this forgettable sunlit drive to the hotel was how you heal. So when she finally stood in her room, hands shaking, and pulled the curtains wide to prove nothing was waiting outside, she told herself she'd beaten it. Until the news came on local LA. Channel 4. A segment about a retired stewardess found dead in her apartment. No signs of forced entry. Natural causes, they said. But the anchor's voice cracked while reading the report, and the photo they showed. Lisa didn't blink, didn't breathe. It was her. Not exactly, but enough. Same eyes. Same shape of the mouth. Same streak of hair near the temple. Lisa had seen that face in the window once, when she was little, looking back at her through the reflection before she turned her head. They said her name was Madeline Pierce, tired from Pan Am. Last flight. Logged in 1971, same flight number? Lisa stood still, something in her bones locking into place, like a key finally finding the right rusted groove. She reached for the remote, rewound, replayed. The footage glitched as it landed on the woman's photo. Not a digital artifact, film burn. Like the image had been transferred from an old reel. And behind her shoulder in the frame, half-cropped, stood a figure. James, wearing a Pan Am pilot's uniform. Lisa felt her chest twist. Memory or echo or something stranger. Rising up like a scream inside her blood, she knew she couldn't ignore it, so she dug old archives. Forum threads. Passenger manifests that shouldn't be accessible but were. Flight 1971 wasn't real, not in any airline registry, but a military charter with the same number had gone missing in late summer 1971. No press coverage. No families interviewed, just a shallow blip in a declassified log, redacted heavily. Her name wasn't there. Neither was Madeline Pierce. But one entry stood out. Alec J. Monroe, special assignment, observer, her father, except she never knew his name. Her mother only referred to him as the man who never came home. She always assumed he'd left before she was born. Lisa stared at the entry. For a long time, then longer. That night, she dreamt of the plane again, but this time, it wasn't haunted. It was cold, mechanical, functional. She was sitting in 14C. No one spoke. Not even her. But in the overhead bin above her head, something banged. 3 slow knocks. The exact rhythm James had tapped on the table as a child. She woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, and opened her hotel drawer. Inside, beneath the Gideon Bible, was a Polaroid, no caption, no date, just a grainy photo of the plane aisle. There, blurry, but unmistakable, was Lisa standing. Screaming mouth open wide in terror. Behind her, something in the shadows moved. Something taller than a person, faceless. Recording, she turned the photo over. Nothing on the back, except a small fingerprint. Too small to be hers. Too clean to be a mistake. It looked like it belonged to a child. She didn't sleep after that, but the false resolution still held. In the daylight, she functioned. Took calls, ate food, returned emails, told no one. And it would have stayed that way. She would have lived with the mystery half-shelved if the voicemail hadn't arrived. Unknown number. Time-stamped for 3 days ago? August 3rd. But it hadn't shown up until now. The voice on the line was warped. It's barely audible over static, but it was her. Terrified, begging. Don't let them reset me. I remember now. He didn't disappear. He was taken. And they said I agreed to it. I signed it, but I don't remember a loud knock. She thought she was alone. After the tape clicked and the mirror bent inward, like a window pressed against the wrong world. Lisa collapsed. Her body refused to move. Her voice gone. Her mouth open but soundless. She laid there in her childhood. Room a place that should not have existed while the air pulsed with something that hadn't yet decided whether to take her or speak through her. But someone else had seen it. She didn't know yet. Not when the house returned to silence. Not when she managed to stand. Not when she looked at the notebook again and realized the ink on the page had begun to bleed sideways, not down. Not from water but sideways, stretching the words into illegible recursive loops. Like. The page was still being written from. Somewhere else. Someone else. She found the first mark in the hallway, scratched into the wallpaper. A symbol she'd seen only once before, on the oxygen mask in her dream. 3 intersecting triangles, overlapping like a shattered compass. And underneath, in tiny, childlike print, they're waking us up, one by one. The message wasn't hers. Someone else had been here. Someone who left knowing she'd follow the trail. She started seeing them everywhere after that, carved into metal hand dryers, taped under coffee shop tables, burned into the back of photo frames she didn't remember buying. It's always the same symbol. Always somewhere just out of view, like a dare or a warning. But it wasn't until she found the second notebook that she truly understood. Not hers. Not even in her handwriting. Same notebook. Same spine. Different author. This one was titled, What We Agreed Not to Say. Inside, entries from people she'd never met. Every time I wake up, I'm older than I was before. But my sister hasn't aged. She says we went on a trip in 1997, but I remember the crash. I remember the fire. They told me I signed an NDA, but I was 10. What could I have known? Why do I dream in static? I saw her in the mirror, too. Not my reflection, hers. Same eyes, same scar under the lip. When I reached out, she said my name like she'd been waiting years. This isn't about the flight. It never was. Flight was just the crack where the light started bleeding through. The last entry was fresh, ink still drying. If you found this, she's already looking through you. The one in the recordings. The one who remembers every version of the truth and still chooses silence. Then a phone number. U.S. area code 443, Lisa called it. Let it ring twice. Hung up, and within minutes, her hotel TV powered on by itself. Channel 3. No cable box. A woman's face appeared, late 30s. Short hair. Pierced nose. Blank wall behind her. She looked directly at Lisa and said calmly, I've been watching you since Chicago. Before the flight. Before they buried the report. Lisa froze. Not crazy. You were right all along. The woman looked tired, like she hadn't slept in weeks. But her voice was steady. We call ourselves Echoes. Not a name we chose. It's what they labeled us in the files. We're the ones they can't delete completely. Survivors of memory. Bleeds. People who remember things before they happen. Or after they've been erased. Lisa sat down. We've been waiting for someone to trigger a convergence, and you did. Flight 1971 was never about the passengers. It was about what came through. Your father, Alec. He saw it first. That's why they scrubbed the tapes. The screen flickered. Got to a still image. Found footage from 20 years ago. Blurry. Infrared camera. A plane, interior empty. Except for one shadowy figure strapped into the window seat, caption at the bottom. Seat 1 for C. Black box recovery restricted. Lisa knew that shape. Even in thermal, even in silhouette. That's me, she whispered. Woman on screen nodded, as if she heard. You were part of the original protocol. They tried to isolate you from yourself. Multiple loops, rewrites, but you never fully deleted. You just hid. Lisa leaned forward. Who are you? The woman stared, then said quietly, My name's Camille. I was in 1 for B. That was the seat behind her, the one where the air had gone cold, the one where the whispers had started. Camille continued, I saw what they took out of you. I saw what they put in. I remember the third knock. That's when time split. The others. Some of them didn't come back whole. Some still don't know what they are. Lisa tried to speak, but the audio cut. The screen flickered. Camille's face twisted into static. A single symbol replaced the feta, triple triangle and a voice knot. Camille's came through. This voice wasn't human. It wasn't male. It wasn't female. It was like hearing your own thoughts being read aloud by something that had no mouth. You are inside the control structure now. Stop looking behind the memory. The screen shut off, and Lisa saw something. In the reflection of the black TV screen, not her own, face. James. Standing behind her, smiling, then gone again. Her phone vibrated once. A message, no sender. No time, just a single phrase. You left us behind, Lisa. Come back before they bury the signal. The world shifted again after that. Lisa started seeing symbols in the clouds, letters forming in bus route numbers. She heard radio ads that repeated her dreams word for word. Strangers would glance at her and immediately look away, like they recognized her but didn't want to admit it. She walked into a thrift store and found a jacket that already had her name sewn into the label. She found surveillance footage of herself standing in places she didn't remember visiting. Once, she received an email with a subject line that simply read, you lied to the child. No sender. No body. Just a WAV file attached. Lisa played it, a voice breathing. Then, they called him imaginary, so you wouldn't go